And okay, just like you've talked about, we've touched a bit on a lot when it comes just to work. And yeah, I was asking you like, what were your favorite pieces to cover so far?
The thing for me is that I mostly write for women's magazines and Vice, of course.
Yeah.
And then the occasional other odd job.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really written that much on Africa the past couple months. It's usually so I'm still kind of doing the same work that I was doing back home, just from Nairobi. So I can mostly write about the same topics that I was writing about at home.
Oh, but you can do it actually. Like
yeah, but I can do it here.
Okay.
So I write a lot about mental health, women's rights. I try to write about Africa as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I did write a couple pieces on the orphanage industry that I was telling you about.
Wait, which one?
Did I not tell you? So I'm writing the...
Are you confusing me for somebody else? Did they have braids like me as well?
Yeah, because Wazungu think that every Kenyan looks alike. No, but I was telling you I'm writing a book about the orphanage
we'll
industry.
get to that. Yeah,
so I've written articles on the same topic as well.
Ah, okay.
So I've written on that. That's one of the most intriguing topics,
things like
I would
to
say.
you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and but before we get to that, what's like the craziest thing that you've ever like just featured as a writer and you're like, you know what? Because for me, the craziest story I can ever say that I watched on Vice was this story of Colombia and how like these teenage boys, like, you know, before they get their whole initiation process, before they start like having like sex with mature girls and everything, apparently it's okay to fuck a donkey. And I saw that and I was like, just like, what in the hell is this? And it was covered so properly by Vice, and they were actually interviewing people, and people's uncles were like, you know what, yeah, this is nice, so that before they know how to deal with a woman in bed, they can actually, you know, practice on a donkey. But no, listen, stop rolling your eyes, listen. You know, but the scariest part was how normal this was. But you also have to keep into consideration when people are in a different environment and they're just not doing what you guys consider normal. As crazy as it might seem to you, it's normal shit to them. So like even girls were being asked, they were like, yeah, and there was this guy who was like describing how a donkey looks and how it listen.
I have respect for all cultures.
This is covered
100%. But as soon as people start hurting animals, I just get vicious. Like it hurts me in my core.
No.
And having sex with like raping donkeys, ugh, no.
Now that was ridiculous, because like, you know, even animal activists wouldn't know where they should come in and start like protest. Because what would you protest, man? And they had like a specific way to even tell like when a donkey is like on heat.
Really?
And they logically explained it was covered by Vice.
But I haven't seen every Vice documentary. Do you know how many there are?
That's a ridiculous one. You can't miss. Like, trust me.
I'll look it up.
Just on YouTube, just donkey fucking in Colombia or something. Okay. It will pop up. That was like, so that's a good example of what like I'm saying, like that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Right.
Okay, I'm not saying ridiculous. I respect their culture and what they do to, you know, what they consider normal to them. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, to me, it was like, I can't wrap my head around that. No, I can't. I just can't. I refuse to accept that. So what would you say has been, like, the craziest thing you've ever, like, had to write about, experience, just as a writer in general? And, you know, it left you, like, just still, like, trying to...
I just like listening to people's personal stories. So I just talked to a lady. I haven't fully interviewed her yet, but she has a very intense life story. So she was forced to work into child pornography by the time that she was 2, up until
the time she was what?
2 years old, like a toddler. up until the time
Okay,
she was
that
an
doesn't.
adult.
Okay.
So those kinds of stories always have an impact on me, and I try to, whenever I'm writing down someone's life story, I try to be as careful as I can, not twist any words, be as accurate as I can, and then have them read through the piece before I publish anything.
Yeah.
And then the best thing is when they're like, "Thank you for writing this down so well."
Yeah.
That is the best compliment that you can get. And for Vice, I think the pieces that were most prominent for me, because my life has been pretty hectic up until this point as well.
We
So-
have time. We have time to talk about it. We have time.
So I would write very personal stories for Vice as well. Like my whole entire personal life is out there on the internet. And
I wish I knew that before the podcast.
but
This
it's mostly in Dutch. So you could
Come on, I can't.
you could use Google Translate.
Come on, it's too much work, man.
It is. But those, yeah, and then you'd always have people coming up to you that you don't know,
And actually,
like I have the same thing going on, and asking for advice and stuff. So, I think those stories kind of, they left the biggest impact on me, I would say.
you say like at times you have to tap into like a more personal like experience to actually be able to communicate well, like on pen and paper or when you're typing it.
Yeah, and I think when you're interviewing somebody who has a very intense story that they're talking about, it helps when you also tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
So it helps to be open on both sides.
So
I
that they
usually
can
do that.
feel they
Yeah.
can feel like it's a safe space to actually share this
Yeah.
kind of story.
Yeah, and then you will have people coming up to you that are like, I've read some of your pieces that you've written about personal life stories. I think I have an interesting story for you about my life. Do you want to write it down for me? So that is always the biggest compliment that I can get, I think.
It gives you a sense of purpose in actually what you're doing. Like, you
Yeah.
know what, I actually connected with someone, and this is the kind of feeling that I'd want to receive every time, like I'm just writing an article, I guess.
Yeah, so this is mostly on mental health, the stories that I'm talking about right now. So
Should we touch on mental health? Because like that's
sure.
like pretty big, right? Like right now in Nairobi, they're saying like, suicide rate is going up.
Is that really true?
It is.
In Nairobi?
Yes.
Nairobi specifically, or the whole of Kenya?
Not even like, there's a feature that was done by BBC, and it was so crazy because like even when they were doing like the coverage, they left one household to go and interview the next household, and somebody from a household that they had just left actually committed suicide.
Really?
It's that crazy.
That's very intense.
And I think they was also saying kind of like it's higher in men, apparently, the suicide rate.
Yeah, I think
Slightly
that's
higher.
global.
It is.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case though?
I think because men, like we, in Kenya, but also in Western countries, we live in a patriarchal society, and men are not really expected to talk about anything that they're feeling, which means they'll keep things to themselves.
Would you like if you had a boyfriend, would you like your boyfriend to come and talk to you about his problems?
That is the one thing that I always end up not hating but disliking about guys, the fact that they're like unable to communicate in a proper way. And I know that's
You
not,
like that?
no, I hate it, but that
yeah.
is it's not even entirely their fault because that's the way they were raised, but it's one thing, it just bothers me because I'm always very open about anything that I'm
But you're
feeling, and
we're supposed to be there, like provide a shoulder for you to lean on. Doesn't it say that in the song?
I'm always the shoulder providing support to someone else.
What? Even guys?
Yes.
Do guys come and lean on your shoulder and cry
Yes.
about their problems?
Yeah. I don't,
Who are these soft-ass people that you're talking about? But that's the thing. It might be like some of the people you think are the strongest who are going like through some of the craziest things emotionally. But also then again, we also don't need like... we still do need strong men mentally to be there.
Yeah, but you can still be strong and talk
cry
about your
over
feelings
and
at the same time and
talk
cry
about
from
my
time
feelings
to time.
and
Yes.
cry on your shoulder.
Yes.
That's not gonna happen.
It will.
That's not gonna happen.
No, but I think for me, because like
How do you make them do that? First of all, do you promise them something?
No,
They just come to you and on your shoulder and start crying. Like, I had a long day.
I think for me, it's not even just with guys that I'm attracted to. It's people in general. I think because I've had so much therapy in my life that I've become very
almost
open
like a therapist.
I'm very open about my problems, and I'm like through therapy I've learned to communicate about my feelings in a constructive way, and for some reason that attracts certain people.
Soft people, soft men.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
Like,
anybody's entitled to be into what they like. I mean, come on.
It's not even a thing I'm necessarily into. It just happens to me. Yeah, but that's.
Yeah, but why would you say that's a global thing? What do you think is the major problem that's causing like a lot of guys to just flip out? Because like even in Kenya, there's this whole thing, femicide thing, that's actually now rampant. Like guys are actually like losing it and just killing their girlfriends, stabbing them, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what?
Are the numbers really rising in Kenya as well when it comes to femicide? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like in the past like few weeks, let's say in the past 3 months, and it's crazy killing. It's not even like just like it's like there was this incident where somebody like bought an axe, traveled all the way to a different province, and hacked the girlfriend or alleged girlfriend to death in broad daylight in front of people. Because when somebody's walking with an axe,
you don't
clearly
really think
they're going to chop a tree. There's no way you're going to use that axe on someone.
Right.
This guy ended up going to like actually kill a campus girl in the middle of like just the street.
So he clearly wanted to inflict as much pain as he possibly could.
And at that state, he clearly doesn't care about the repercussions of whether he's going to go to jail, serve a life sentence, or if you guys are going to do like a mob justice thing. He just doesn't care.
What happened to him?
He got like a bit of a mob justice, like Kenyan style. People mobbed on him.
But they didn't kill him.
But no, they didn't kill him. The cops came, but now he's like, it's an ongoing like court case and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was just crazy, like, a lot of people just didn't understand. But then a few weeks later, something else happened again. And after like 2 weeks again, something else also happened. Like guys are just killing like their girlfriends, like just...
I think violence towards women is rampant everywhere, not just in Kenya. It happens in Europe as well. Like I have so many friends that have gotten raped, have been sexually assaulted. I would say every woman in my surroundings has had to deal with sexual intimidation, at least. And I've always been very open about this, and people find this weird, but I was raped in Kenya as well back in September when I just got here. I went out with a couple of friends, and then a guy that I sort of knew, but I didn't know him well. I suspect that he drugged me, and then he raped me back in my hotel. So that happened in September. And then, I kept quiet about it for some time. And then after about 2 months, I think, I started speaking out about it, because I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about.
Definitely.
And he didn't even realize what he'd done wrong, or he was just playing mind games with me. Could have been both. I don't know what his intentions were. But
that's crazy, though, because...
Yeah, but then people would tell me, yeah, that's what happens when you live in Africa, you get raped. And I'm like, no, this shit happens everywhere.
But the funny thing is, the craziest thing about you is like, when you're telling certain stories, you're just speaking about them so casually.
I think that's also thanks to therapy.
And that's that's what's scary to me. I'm like,
I'm kind of able to step outside of my mind for a bit and then look at my situation from another perspective, from a person who's that it didn't happen to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So
Yes and no.
looking at it as objectively as possible. So I can also talk about this shit without
Oh
crying and stuff.
yeah.
Because if I get really into it, then I'll get emotional at some point. But for me, like I can.
But
I can
from
talk
that
about
like
this stuff.
mind frame, like okay, so what do you do next? Do you report it or did you just let it go or?
I did not report it.
Why?
I chose to.
Because I think that's the whole debate. Like even when people are talking about the whole Me Too movement, and like even like since you brought it up, it has still been like an ongoing like issue, both like in the States, Europe, and even just locally.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement and everything, and the people were saying like this of course are not the most intelligent people who are like this girl put themselves like in this position, and
You hear that so much.
And why didn't they speak sooner? And it's just like a whole process thing. It's just like you don't wake up in the morning and run to the cops and start saying
Right.
this and this happened. Like it's a whole different.
Yeah.
But how do you process that? Just how? Why not take a step to report or?
So
Hold that thought first. Hold that thought. If it's something that's happened, and I'm just asking, like from, I'm thinking about it like if it was my sister or my friend at that time, and because I've just known you like a few hours ago, right?
Yeah.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like if we're close as a friend and maybe a voice or your brother, cousin, or just somebody who's close to you. My question would be like, if this is something that's happened, why wouldn't you want to take that step and report, or just why are you processing it alone? Do other people know?
Yeah, other people know. I've talked about this, and I've actually written an article about it that's going to be published within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
In a women's magazine back home. But I don't want to get into too much detail, because it might also be triggering to people. I don't know. But the guy that assaulted me raped me with a condom, which while it was happening to me, I was very happy about, because I was afraid of getting some sort of STD or something. So at first I was very happy about the fact that he did that. But then afterwards, when he was done, he took the condom home. So, and at first I didn't understand why he did that. I thought I maybe didn't remember correctly. I thought to myself, why would he take the condom home? That doesn't make any sense. So after it happened, I was kind of in a shock, and I searched my room a couple times looking for it, because I thought, that's weird, why would he take it? And then the next morning I went to the hospital, Aga Khan, and then I talked about one of the nurses about what happened to me, and she's like, well, he probably did that because so you wouldn't have any physical evidence
DNA
against him, right? And there wouldn't be any DNA left inside of you. So they could still do, the whole shebang and try to get DNA from me that may have been left behind. But I knew that whole process was very traumatizing, so I chose not to, because the chances that they were going to find something were so little anyways. So in the end, if I would have gone to court, then it would have been my word against his, because there was no evidence whatsoever, and he was just going to say it had been a one-night stand.
Twist it around.
Which is also what he kept
But have you
telling other people after.
But have you confronted, like, had a conversation with him about?
I think I was too scared. He knew that he'd done something wrong, because right after it happened, I was in and out of consciousness during the whole thing. Like, I don't remember most parts.
Yeah.
But then I remember being very clear-minded when he was done, and then I just panicked, and I was crying and hyperventilating, and I was having a full-blown panic attack, and he was still in the room. And this fucking guy looks at me and he's like, Charlotte, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And then he ordered an Uber, and asked me if he could stay in my room to wait for the Uber to arrive because it was pretty far away. And then I just flipped entirely. I cussed at him and I was so angry and I was screaming, and then he just left the room and I barricaded the door with all the furniture in the room. So he knows very well what he did, and I think he planned the whole thing, because like, who takes a freaking condom home after they've supposedly had a one-night stand with somebody? That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Maybe it's something they've done plenty of times.
Yeah, so later I started asking around about him, and people have told me, yeah, he does this more often. This is not the first time this has happened.
But you know what? Just say something. And that's so crazy. But there is, like, I just don't want it. I'm always just like, hearing stories about like certain groups of people. But, for me, I'm always thinking like it's just like speculations and stuff. But there are some group of people who are known to be like, that's always like speculation about them doing that. But it's just unfortunate, because I think also like if the government wants to do something, okay, I don't know what the solution is though, because even at times like when people are saying about, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thanks.
That's not like, a good experience that you want. Even like, of course, even like how your friends, maybe some people from Netherlands would say like, that's what you get for. But this could easily happen.
People weren't saying that it was my fault, but they were like, this sort of thing happens when you move to Kenya. And I'm
no,
like,
it's not a Kenyan thing.
It's not a thing that just happens in Kenya. I have friends back home in Holland who have gotten raped, who were drugged in a club and then raped as well.
Through the same thing. Maybe you're going out, having a good time with people. And I think also like that whole thing, I think though, like in Kenya, the thing about people need to learn is like the consent has to be taught.
Yeah.
Because going through the school process and everything, there is no single point where people are taught like this is how you're supposed to like approach a lady.
Right.
This means consent.
Even when I was going to secondary school, we were never taught about consent. We were just taught about how to protect ourselves from STDs.
Use a condom and everything. But people don't, because like there's always like that thin line conversation where people are talking about like, because she was drinking, I was drinking, and maybe they'd say, you know what, I wasn't also thinking straight because she wasn't thinking straight. So there's that like whole thin line between like we're both intoxicated and somebody can, like you said, somebody would say like, it was a one-night stand. I was also like just on.
Yeah, and he was also bragging about this to people afterwards. Like, oh, you know what I did? And then
I'm sorry.
He even, I think a couple times he called me and he would WhatsApp me and ask me on dates. and
Take someone on a date first of all and try and caught them. Let's say caught them. I don't even want to say have sex with them anymore. I want to say like, you take someone on. And I think that's where like, okay, I'm just glad like I've taught myself so many different things because I went out of my way. I understand what it is to actually take someone on a date.
Yeah.
Take someone on a club date as well. Alcohol, and like even now when somebody, in fact, like even the one thing like I really avoid right now is like girls who get like super wasted.
Yeah, right. And
like
if
that,
a girl
you have to go home.
Wasted up to a point where she's not able to function normally. You don't.
And where's the fun in that?
Right.
First of all,
but
wouldn't I want somebody who's like?
But it's also people don't understand that when you're that drunk, you cannot give full consent. You don't like. You're not even aware of your surroundings.
You don't even.
No.
And now it takes a whole different person who's seeing that and take advantage of that. Because if you're already with me on a night out, and I'm getting like all the signs, maybe we're kissing, maybe you're being, we can still save it for next time, I'm guessing.
Right.
I just don't understand the whole thing of like you have to have it now. Now. I mean,
it's because many men just feel very entitled to women's bodies, and it's not just in Kenya. That's like that's
it's
a
a
global
worldwide
thing.
thing.
Yeah. So they think that they are somehow entitled to touch you whenever they feel like it.
Okay, now I don't know how to. I can put it this way. Also, there was this whole other documentary I was watching.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a documentary or a TV show? We are at like the day and age where like now, and I'm just picking. I'm not saying anything about all this and that. I'm just saying we're at the day and age like right now.
Yeah.
Like when you go like let's say on social media on Instagram and stuff, there's a whole lot of women sexualizing themselves.
But I don't think
no.
women
I
sexualizing themselves
I know.
leads to sexual assault.
No. Can I finish?
Yeah.
Because I'm just trying to think of how these cavemen are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, cause a normal sane person they would know the differentiate. They can differentiate, like even if like let's say, even though a girl is dressed skimpily, I'm not supposed to like just grab her butt cheek.
Right.
It's not a welcome, it's not an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people who like when they see that, like let's say on your Instagram, you can easily see all these strippers that you're following, all these girls in skimpy outfits and everything. And it's like, that's the in thing like right now. The less you wear, the more likes you get and everything, the more you expose. Kind of. So, for most of these men, if you've been like a whole week, that's what's just, you've been feeding your mind and everything. And then you get like this small leeway with that person you are envisioning
Yeah.
on Instagram. Hold on. Yeah, as I was trying to explain, for most of these young boys would take that to be sort of like an invite, even though it's not.
I always feel like
And that's a worldwide thing. It's not like just an African thing.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
In general, I feel as if a lot of men are comfortable with sexualizing women as long as they do it themselves. But as soon as a girl starts owning her sexuality and starts sexualizing herself, being in control of her own society, that
Yeah.
angers a lot of guys for some reason, and they want to try and take that control back. Is what I sense in my surroundings.
In your surroundings, is that like because you've said like you do a lot of, when you're writing like your articles, it's all about a lot of women's
Mm-hmm.
I think issues and things that they're going
Yeah.
through, experiences
Yeah.
and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how to touch on this subject though, because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a sensitive topic, and I wouldn't want somebody to listen or watch and take anything like the wrong way, because I'm just trying to think, even though these men know it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
how comes people still comfortable doing the same thing over and over and over again?
Yeah, because they somehow feel entitled to women's bodies.
Mhm.
You know, I have some friends that are sex workers. So, like, I have friends that are working in sex clubs.
Sex
and-
workers.
Yeah, and I know
Oh wait,
girls
that's
who sell.
where do you stay?
Huh?
Netherlands.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's where it's.
There are sex workers everywhere.
Oh, no, but there at least has a. You have a system. They pay tax and everything, right?
Most of them. You can do the work legally and illegally.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
please go on with the story about.
Yeah, so I know girls who will sell their nudes for money,
Yeah.
and for some, like most of them do this on Twitter, and for some reason that angers so many guys, and they will get a shitload of hatred every single day. But these are the same men who will
Buying.
buy. Well, not now. I feel like most guys feel like they're entitled to porn, so they will want the product for free. And these are the same guys hating on these girls for selling their nudes.
Yeah.
Will watch, go on Pornhub in the evening and wank to some girl on screen and then go to sleep. And I'm like,
I don't
that's just-
complain. I'm just saying.
It's so hypocritical. It just
No,
doesn't
yeah,
make any
yeah,
sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And,
get.
and I think it's because these women are owning their sexuality and making a profit off of it. That is why it angers these guys. And you don't even necessarily have to make a profit off of it. I mean, you could be, taking pictures in skimpy outfits and posting those on your Instagram as a girl, and you will also get hatred.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I think we just don't know. Nobody knows how they're supposed to react like right now, because I was having a conversation last week with a friend of mine. You know, she's with the whole Free the Nipple campaign and everything.
good for her. I'm all for it.
No, yeah, but you know, I was just trying to explain to her, like, you know, when you put it out on the internet, not everybody's going to interpret it as an intelligent person who's going to school and they have manners and they know they're not supposed to say this and that. I'd say, like, for me, I was asking her, how am I supposed to show appreciation without overreaching? Am I supposed to compliment the nipple? Am I supposed to say, like, you know, no, listen.
What a beautiful nipple.
No, yeah. And that's what I was exactly telling her. Like, should I say, like, you know what? I love how gorgeous your breasts look today. Yeah. But, because, I mean, that's just like a compliment. And I was being honest. I was like, you know, if I like them and I like how they look, should I just double tap or should I leave a comment and say, like, you know what?
You don't have to leave a comment. I mean, women's boobs are just overly sexualized. And they're just little bags of fat with a nipple on them. Like, get over yourself. It's just a fucking nipple.
So you say.
Yeah, like, it annoys me to no end. But I feel like the biggest problem when it comes to sexual assault, which is very rampant in Kenya, but everywhere, I would say, is that we teach girls how to put themselves in less danger. Like, don't wear that skimpy outfit, and maybe don't drink too much, and stick around your friends at all times. You know, there's all these ways that you have to learn how to be safer around men as a girl, that you're taught from a very early age on.
Yeah.
And it is ridiculous that we have to adjust ourselves to a situation in which men are mostly the attacker. So instead of girls...
Subconsciously, like, in your mind, it's just like, you know...
So instead of teaching girls how to protect themselves from rapists, we should be teaching boys to not rape.
But it's so crazy, you know why?
What?
Because I saw my friend who was doing like kickboxing classes, and I was asking her, like, yo, why do you think it's necessary for you to practice? Right. And she was like, self-defense. And I was like, self-defense for what? She's like, again, it's rape. And I was just like, but you see, as a guy in my head, walking around, that doesn't even cross my mind at all.
No.
But, like, if you go, like, people are generally, like, just scared of... That's an issue.
I mean, if you talk to your female friends and you would ask them about all the ways in which they make sure that they're safe and nothing happens to them. Yeah. I don't think a lot of men realize the full extent of this.
Yeah.
How that impacts your life. And I think in a city like Nairobi, you have to be even more careful. You
have to.
Which, and it angers me sometimes.
Because
we need to take all these precautions.
Because I don't think we also have, like, systems in place, especially like in Nairobi, to just that will work in favor of you in case such an incident happens.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, a lot of people here, a lot of women here, when something like this has happened to them, they don't really know where to turn. Therapy's freaking expensive. What are you gonna do? Just deal with it by yourself. And I've noticed, even, you know, like, talking to my Kenyan friends about this, the thing that happened to me, they would always be like, yeah, but there's two sides to every story. Maybe we can talk to him first and see what his side of the story is. I'm like, no, you were there. You know how he was behaving. You know that, I've told you every single detail of what happened that night. How can you still ask me to first go to the guy and ask his side of the story and then and then judge?
But I know I want to ask this. I don't know whether it's, but this is just coming from a different point of view, or just since you've mentioned that as well, about, the person who was saying, like, two sides of the story and everything. If you were to redo your steps that evening, what would you have done differently?
I think, first of all, I'm convinced of the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't my fault at all. I know that fully.
Of course.
But ever since it happened, I've been way more careful of my drinks when I go out, because I'm almost 100% certain that he drugged me because of the way that I...
You can tell. Yeah, you can tell this is a normal high or...
Right, and I'd never felt this before because I've never taken any drugs in my life, and it didn't feel like I was drunk. It was something else entirely. So ever since that happened, whenever I get a drink in a club, I'm always walking around like this, covering the opening with my hand, and I think I've just become a little more paranoid. And I think if that night were to happen again, I wouldn't depend on my other friends that much, my male friends that were there. Like I think that I considered myself safe in a situation where I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Depending on other people too much, thinking that they would, look out for me, which they didn't. Yeah.
Sorry once again about that.
Thanks.
But
Yeah.
just off camera, I was asking how did you overcome this? Because for some people it just takes forever to get.
Yeah, I know.
And I can only imagine how do you even start even now interacting with men after such an experience, because now everybody just seems evil.
Well, not evil, maybe suspicious.
No, yeah, but and that's what I was saying. I think right now in Nairobi it's very common, because I've noticed even sometimes I've just been in a situation where, because I'm a very social person, I'd want to ask somebody out and I'd do all the right things and everything, but there just seems to be some disconnect,
right?
Or they're just they're going through something, and I'm always just asking yo, or maybe they'd say a statement you're just all the other men, they're trying to just get I'm yo, listen, I mean, I just thought normal people are supposed to go on a date and everything, and this is just the normal, but you see they're extra guarded, I'd say that. And they just seem a bit paranoid
in the world.
And paranoid as well. And I don't blame them.
No.
I'm just saying it's just happening a lot. But how are you able to just process that? Because I think a lot of girls just take
right after it happened, I was in the hospital an entire day doing all, having conversations with doctors and counselors and nurses, and they asked me, do you want a therapy session? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I cried for 10 minutes, and then I just went home afterwards, and I sort of pretended nothing happened. I think that was just the way that it's not a healthy way, but that's the way that I dealt with it at the time. And then as the weeks progressed, I was being a little more open about it. First I told my sister and my parents, and then I remember telling a friend of mine about it, and I knew that she'd gotten raped before, so she would probably understand what I'd gone through, and I could talk to her about it. And later on she was like, Charlotte, the way that you talked to me that day was not normal. You were so casual about the whole thing. I told her I was raped, not even crying, showing no emotion whatsoever. So I just continued on with my life. I was working, doing all kinds of stuff. I had gotten a little suspicious of guys. I didn't trust men that much as I did before, which was hard for me because I've always had a lot of male friends my whole entire life. And I wasn't used to not feeling safe around them. And then we were talking about this off camera. I got robbed.
Yeah, man. So it doesn't even get any better, though. Doesn't get any better.
Mean, getting robbed.
Do you want to describe that for people who don't know what we're talking about?
Yeah. So I just had a whole bunch of bad luck those months. I don't know. Maybe
was this after or before?
right after.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think there were a couple weeks in between.
What?
And I just kind of sort of recovered from the first thing that happened, and then the other
That's
thing
crazy.
happened. because I live in Kitisuru, and that's a
Yeah.
very safe. It's one
It
of the
is.
safest neighborhoods
Yeah.
in the whole of Nairobi.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was 9 a.m. Like, what happens at 9 a.m? Nothing generally.
Just tell people what happened. You know, you're coming out of your house.
Yeah, so I was coming out of my house. I was waiting for my Uber, and the guy was supposed to be there within 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So I told the askari, "Can you open the gate? I'll just wait outside." So I was waiting outside for not even 2 minutes, and then a guy started walking past me, and he looked kind of confused,
Yeah.
but not dangerous. And then he was asking people on the street. He approached 2 Kenyan women, like, "Do you know the way to this and this place?" And they were like, "No, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I don't know." Then he comes up to me and he asks me the way. And I told him, "No, I don't know, I'm sorry." And then he started approaching the gate of our compound, and he was looking inside to see where the askari was. And that's when I started to get
Oh.
alerted, because
Yeah.
so I stood up and I called out for the askari.
Yeah.
I called out his name, and then this guy like flat out punched me in the face. And you know, when you get robbed, I've gotten robbed before, it's just stuff. But there's no need to punch me in the face. You could have just asked me. So, but I just immediately got very, very angry, and I
Yeah.
started. I think it didn't even take a minute, but I was fighting with him. So,
Yeah.
you know, I was scratching his face, and he was pretty big, so I couldn't really do that much
Yeah.
damage to him anyway. But I ended up with 2 black eyes. He ended up with a face that was scratched open, and he took my phone. I still have my laptop though. So
Yeah. Even
That's
for me, you're not taking my laptop though. I'll be like, you know what?
yeah.
Whether do this the easy way or the hard way, but you're not taking my laptop though. Yeah. I'm just so sorry. So I can only imagine like this happening back to back.
Yeah, I think if I'd only gotten robbed, then I would have been fine. I mean, it wasn't the nicest experience, but I would have been okay. But I think these things happening so quickly after each other, and again, a guy was touching me without me having given my consent to anything.
again.
Somehow that triggered something, and I just I broke down entirely. And then I was just a sobbing mess the next few days. I noticed that I started to develop some sort of hatred for Nairobi, which was the last thing that I wanted.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I was scared when I would go outside, and I would find everybody suspicious. And why are these people walking past the car? Like, what are they trying to do? I didn't dare to take a boda anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
So then I just booked a ticket back to Europe, did therapy for around 2 months, I think, and came back to Nairobi. But most Kenyan women that this happens to,
They don't have that-
they don't have that opportunity to go through therapy. And for me, it helped so much.
And the right kind of therapy. It can be therapy, but you know, just you talking to somebody and they're listening to your but there's a kind of therapy that probably
Yeah, and different kinds of therapies work for different people.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I feel like most women in Kenya that this happens to, they have to deal with this stuff on their own.
On their own.
Yeah, and I
maybe
can't even
shameful
imagine.
to report, to share, because you know, like for you,
Yeah.
you're just talking about it, like you know.
Yeah, but I do have to mention that how open I am about this, that is not really normal.
It's
even
not.
in Europe.
Oh, it's not.
No, people don't talk about rape openly. No.
Yeah,
There's
that's
only
why, like,
very
even when
few
you
people who
even
do
when
this.
you mentioned it, that's why I was like, you know. I mean, I don't know how to process, because even for me, it's taking like a minute or two for me to process every time when you're saying it. I'm just like,
Yeah, no,
I
but
don't
like
know.
I said, I've always been writing articles about stuff that happened to me personally,
Yeah.
because people could always relate to it in some way.
yeah,
And this for me wasn't any different. And first when it happened, I was kind of shamed into not talking about it as well. But then I thought to myself, fuck you guys. This is my experience. This happened to me. I can talk about it whenever and wherever I feel like it.
you know what will even be better and make you feel better?
What?
Reporting the guy.
Yeah, but you have to understand that as a man, it's very difficult to understand the repercussions that might follow from reporting the person who did this to you.
But
So
let me
all
ask.
the women that I've talked to and I've explained to them this
Yeah.
is, this and this is the reason why I'm not reporting it.
Yeah.
They've all understood it entirely, and they were like, I probably would have done the same thing. And all the men in my life, all my male friends, especially my Kenyan friends, they were all like, you have to go to the police, do this, do that. I'm like, no, this is my decision. You have to respect the decision that I made.
My question would be, is it that in your mind you're still processing it like, yes, this happened to me, but the guy can change, or it's not even like you care about him, like...
No, I don't care. No, I don't give two shits about him. If
Okay.
I would see him right now, I'd probably punch him in the face. But for me, it's, as I said, I don't have any physical evidence against him, so the chance.
Oh, so like that...
So if I would
she
go
said,
to
he
trial,
said, yeah.
right,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it's going to be my word against
Okay.
his, and the chance that he's going to get convicted is very slim.
But if he
Very
left,
slim.
the condom, then would you have reported?
Yeah, I would have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I
Then
would
now I
have.
understand. Okay.
But then another thing is that he's like known around here. People know who he is. I think if he had just been some random dude that people don't know, I would also have reported it. But I was kind of contemplating, like, if I go to the police and I report him and they arrest him on some charges and, you know, they're going to go to court with it, then somehow this is going to end up with the press and they're going to write all kinds of stories about this and my name is going to be attached to him and this whole thing forever.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to go through that because in the end, the chances that he was going to get convicted were so small. Like, I didn't want to torture myself like that. Yeah, I don't know. I've tried. I've thought about maybe talking to him about this, maybe meeting him somewhere public, and you know,
No.
like. But I know it's not gonna make a difference. He doesn't give a fuck. He's done this before. I was just
Yep.
I was just one of the victims.
The calculated manner on which you've talked about, like, you know, even him picking up the evidence and everything,
Yeah.
that's something he does on a regular. So
Yeah, so it's not gonna make any difference. He's just gonna laugh at me and walk away. To his stupid wife. She's not stupid. She probably doesn't know, but okay.
now you just disclose that he has a wife.
Yeah, yeah.
So should we move to a different topic, a more cheerful maybe topic?
Yeah,
Not
sure.
not very cheerful, but you know, something slightly different.
What-
We can always
What
pick this like
topic?
on a part 2 or something, you know, when I come to ginger. Okay, so the next segment